allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag
of
of
the
the United States of America,
and to the
to
republic
the republic
for which
for
it
which
stands,
And
one nation,
one
it
nation,
stands,
God,
one nation,
individual,
under God,
indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everybody, for showing up. Tonight, few questions, just kind of want to get a sense and a feel where we stand on some stuff, because I'm anticipating we'll probably be able to make short work of this budget, maybe Wednesday. And I'll be, just to let everybody know, I'm gonna cancel a deliberations for Monday. My wife is having some surgery, so I'm gonna be a little bit tied up, nothing drastic, but we don't know times yet and things, and if it runs into the evening, I don't want to inconvenience anybody by giving them a last minute cancellation. So Monica, if you can just cancel next Monday's meeting with the town clerk.
Absolutely.
And if things don't complete Wednesday, we will complete it the following Wednesday, which is still within our time limit. And we do have our regular meeting for the month of March in next Tuesday. Doug, were you able to get a hold of Scott Bassett from the audit firm?
Yeah, I talked to Scott. He said that he's going to join the Zoom meeting on Tuesday. And then for this
Okay.
Wednesday,
Cool.
Tim and Tony and a representative from JCI will join the deliberations, and you can ask them questions.
That's fine. Okay.
And not
yeah,
this
Scott
Wednesday,
Bassett,
but the Wednesday after
Go
that,
ahead.
I was going to, not this Wednesday, but the Wednesday, March 31st, I was going to take off. But I think that still fits in your time frame.
Yeah, I mean, it should. I mean, like I said, this Wednesday is only the 17th. The following Wednesday will be the 24th, and I would like to think that by then we should have a bow on this, and that should be it. Anyway, one of the other items I'd like to share with everybody, and Anne Marie is here and Doug is here, is I got an email from Anne Marie last Friday, kind of setting out the events regarding this claim form that we've been chasing, this $300,000 reimbursement from the state for Chatfield Presti School. The bottom line of it, and Anne Marie and Doug, if I misinterpret anything, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but if I misinterpret anything or screw up dates or something, please correct me. But anyway, as you know, we've had this on our agenda as a board for probably close to a year now, about where's the 300,000, has the claim been filed and whatever. And this town has been chasing this money for 3-4 years, maybe a little longer, and it's never gotten put together. I mean, there were various stories that records were in boxes. They were in the old community center. They were in an attic. They were here. They were there. But the bottom line is, Doug and Anne Marie did some pressing of the Board of Education, and the bottom line was, despite being, and with Tim Connors' help, along with Tony Caserta's, the bottom line was this thing never got done, and the form never got done, never got filed. So and that was confirmed last Thursday, March 11th, that Sherry told Doug where all the documents were and that were needed to file the certificate. Well, anyway, it's my understanding, it's been done, it's been sent up, and now it's a matter of waiting on the state to see if that 300 is a good number. Should it be more, which would be nice? Or is it going to be less, which, wouldn't be nice. But anyway, one of the suggestions Anne Marie made, and I have no problem with it, is that if there's anything financial to do with the Board of Education that this board and through myself as chair, loop in the Board of Ed chair and their finance committee chair also, whatever, just to enhance the communications. And I think that's a great suggestion, if for no other reason. Sherry has left or will be leaving shortly. And as everybody knows, we're looking for a new superintendent too, because Mike's leaving as of June 30th. And the one thing we have done over the past, 5-6 years since I've been chair, is we've tried to bust the wall down between First Street and Bank Street, because I can tell you, I have worked in municipalities all over Connecticut, some tremendously large and some real small. And the ones that have I've been in places where the wall is up and you can't see over it. The Board of Ed will not talk to the town will not talk to the Board of Ed. It's a lot of personalities and it's politics. And quite honestly, from my perspective as an auditor doing that work, and now my perspective as a finance chair, it's no fun and it shouldn't be. I mean, this is a small enough town where we've got some good people and we're all trying to pull together to do the same job. So in the future, if we have any Board of Ed requests of it for information or whatever, I will be reaching to Ed Stramello, who's current chair. I guess he's staying in through election, or Kristen Harmeling, in addition to whomever the superintendent turns out to be, and the business manager. And that I have no idea. Did I miss anything, Anne Marie or Doug? Go ahead. Go ahead, Anne Marie.
The Board of Ed and the Board of Ed Finance Committee was not aware that the form wasn't filed either. I don't want to solely put the blame on the Board of Ed, but they were misled as well, as they were under the assumption, because they've been told, I don't want to say under the assumption, because it happens when you assume, but they were told as well that it has been filed, it has been filed, it has been filed. So they were misled to believe that the form was filed. And I'll just leave it at that. So I think
And that,
the collaboration of the Board of Ed
Go
and
ahead.
Finance needs to start, because the Board of Ed has a large budget in the town. And my concern is now is that we don't know when we're going to get this $300,000, and that may put us into a deficit.
That's all there is.
That's my concern.
true. I mean, that 300 has been carried, and the check, I'm assuming, and again, to Anne Marie's point, you know what happens when you assume, but I'm assuming that the check will end up in the town as opposed to the Board of Ed. If it hits the Board of Ed first, it needs to come over here, but that's mechanics, however they send money out. But in that regard, I mean, nothing is gained by building walls between departments, and kind of like, can't we all get along? So in that case, I'm looking forward to it. If we need it, we'll, we will ask the proper people, invite them to meetings. Hopefully there'll be in-person meetings once everybody gets shots and the statistics get better. And then we don't have to worry about it. Okay, after all of that, few
Betty,
questions from last time. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, for Bill, I mean, my understanding and the workings with the budgets and the Board of Ed is that everybody's been pretty transparent. We're just asking for numbers to start with and answers. And I'm hoping that it's not being misled on our behalf. Garbage in is garbage out. So, I mean, is this something that has
There's so much
occurred before? Am I missing something that
They don't know how to handle it.
something we did not do as the Board of Finance to get this squared away with the Board of Education? What am I missing?
I can tell you that for the years I've been chair and on the board and all, when this has come up, we have consistently brought this up to the board. to their business manager at the time, and who's also related to the superintendent at the time. I don't think it's been any issue on the town's part to trying to get information. I mean, because we're at, our constant drumbeat has been, did the form go in? Anybody know how much we're getting? Form go in, does anybody know how much we're getting? And that's all we can do from this point, simply because the project records and all, and eligibility of costs, et cetera, rest with the Board of Ed. So we can ask all we want, but the bottom line is that form needed to be put together and needed to be sent. Apparently the prior business manager didn't get around to doing it for whatever the reason was, which surprises the devil out of me, but it didn't get done. The current business manager, I just explained what happened through Anne Marie's email. And hopefully going forward, I don't know who the new replacement will be, but we have to look forward and be positive and keep lines of communication open. And as Anne Marie suggested, and she's right, if we want something, we will go to the people on the top of the Board of Ed to get it. Anne Marie?
Sounds good.
And the reason why Rick Belden did not file the form is because we were in this, my call unit was not working at the school, so there was a lawsuit in progress. So we did not file
Okay.
not file the paperwork while the suit was in progress, because my call unit.
7:13, and it's still light out.
And if those that remember, the glycol
Okay,
unit runs underneath the sidewalk to help melt it. So we couldn't file the paperwork while a lawsuit was going. That's why Rick Belden did not do it.
okay. That's good information, something I wasn't aware of, and that's fine. Thank you. Anybody else on this? Okay, if not, a few things from the last time around. I guess most of it directed to Doug. Doug, did you talk with the chief regarding the Chaffee-LaPresti crossing guard? Do we have any more information on that?
No, I'm sorry, that missed me. I missed doing that. I'll call him in the morning.
Okay. Because that looks to be roughly about $13,000. 1/3 of the budget that they're asking for 3 positions. If we can eliminate one, that's a third. That's not too bad. The other thing we talked about is getting information and reimbursement on vendors for the cameras and stuff. You had mentioned, Doug, that the police department was getting quotes and all to try to nail down the reimbursement financing. Do we know anything further about it?
I haven't heard any updates from the chief yet. I'll ask him about that too tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Because something like that could also help this budget, let's say. 30% on 90,000 is, almost 30 grand. So it's not a small piece of money. Let's see.
Bill, if I could ask,
And no, go ahead, please.
to that point, as we get down to the nitty gritty and public hearings and all the stuff that makes this happen,
Yeah,
what do we do when we still don't have the answers in 2 weeks? I mean, it's March 15th.
I get it.
Sorry.
And quite honestly, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to make a decision as a board. And do we roll the dice and put an estimate in? Let's call it our best guess, because we already know from discussions that to file for reimbursement, I believe Anne Marie said, we've got to do it by July 1. Got to have the stuff in, paid for, all that stuff. So it may be a case, if we really don't get any kind of hard numbers, we as a board, and budgets are just an estimate anyway, as everybody on this call knows. We as a board may have to make an assumption in terms of percentage and how much. And put it in as a miscellaneous revenue item in the general fund. Which, okay, it's not going to bankrupt the general fund if it doesn't come in. But by the same token, we'd like to get it as close as we can. So we'll have to see what can be come up with. And Doug, if you can, relay that to the chief, and if the chief's got any issues, he can even call me.
Okay.
Hey, Bill.
Let's see.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. I thought that with the crossing guard, isn't that something that the Board of Ed had to have an input on? Because that's, it was related to.
No,
It was related to them also, and they would really need to make a final decision. I think the chief and you and our board all agreed that that would be a savings, but I think the issue was really with the Board of Ed and whether or not they would go ahead with that.
no, absolutely, Monica, because as we've all heard the chief, what he said during deliberations, that, yeah, he has to get together with the Board of Education to say, can we drop one person and just go 100% bus and whatever? And what I'm looking for on behalf of the board is, has he talked to the Board of Ed? Has he gotten any kind of feedback? If he's talked to them and they've all to a person said, oh no, we can't do it. Okay, then we know where this stands. If he's talked to the board and there becomes, it looks like we can bring it up at whatever their next meeting is. Well, that's the opposite side of the coin. And I'm looking for some kind of indication. Now, whether or not he can do it and give it, okay, he may or may not be able to do that. But no, I'm just hoping that he will, be able to tell us something more than I got to get to that. Let's see. And another question, Doug, that was asked about, Chief had mentioned mandates, kind of a general topic concerning the police accountability bill. Can you ask him if he's gotten any other information in terms of timing and dollar values and things like that? Because
Yeah,
this
sure.
whole
I'll ask him.
police. Yeah, thank you. Because this whole police accountability issue, it's brand spanking new, not only for us, but for every community in the state. And we're trying to look at this from a point of view of, can we nail down what we need to nail down as best we can? Now, we know body cameras and recorders and all of that stuff we know. But does it look like there are other mandates on the horizon that we got to worry about? And then, because I want to avoid the town getting a surprise this December. Oh, by the way, the town's got to shell out $100,000 to do X, Y, and Z because of these mandates. I'm trying to get a handle as best we can on what these dollars might look like. I mean, if it's $5,000, that's one thing. If it's $100,000, well, that's quite a bit different. So that's why dealing with all this is kind of a big deal as far as everything that we're doing. It all may amount to a hill of beans, don't know. But I think we've got to turn over rocks and hope we can get the information. And if it's out there, fine. If it's not, okay, fine too. Then we just can't get it. One other question, on the Board of Ed, the bus credit side, the magic number is a $15,000 estimate that they're predicting for their credit on bus service. Okay, it is what it is on that. But, oh, Doug,
Yes,
we're supposed to get $509,000 through the CARES Act for the ESSER grant.
yes,
And I know it's Board of Education, and it's for certain expenditures, et cetera, that they may make, and it falls under that. But I am assuming that that will be accounted for as a special revenue fund in the town of Seymour.
I was under the understanding that it went directly to the Board of Ed, and that they're the ones that would probably, I expect they would account for it within their grants account.
Well, that's what I'm talking about also, because in the audit, there is a state and federal education grants fund, right?
Right. Yeah,
That's
under the
Board of
Board of Ed,
Ed.
yes.
This 500 needs to go in there. It is not part and should not be part of their, let's say, their general fund activities. Because I will guarantee you, with this amount of money, that's going to be a focal point of next year's audit. Because that's brand spanking, when that for this town, that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want any slip ups. I don't want any slip ups in the administration of that money. I get it's the Board of Ed and they're gonna decide how to spend it. But that accounting for it's got to be spot on. And I think in total, actually, because it is part of a separate fund, Doug, I think you've got to kind of, let's call it monitor what goes on and how it's recorded.
Okay.
Because what I don't want to have happen is that there be a mess up. And then one of the interesting items on all of this CARES Act funding that's going to states and cities and towns and all over the place is that a lot of agencies have also put provisions in for what they call clawbacks, which means they will give the money out, but they will follow up. And if money has not been spent correctly, or it remains unspent, or there are questionable expenditures, they can come back. They can come back to the town or the city or whomever and say, you might as well write us a check for that because we want our money back. And I don't want to have this town be in that position. I don't care if it's Board of Ed, not Board of Ed, or whatever. I don't want to be writing any checks back to Uncle Sam for not having something properly recorded or not having something properly documented or, whatever. That wouldn't be a good thing.
Bill, question,
Yeah,
Betty Ann. How much of a reality is
Yeah.
that if it's not monitored for us in the town?
crapshoot. Could be a crapshoot. I mean, no one knows if it's not monitored on our end, meaning the town's not watching what's spent and stuff. If it's not monitored, then I guarantee you in next year's audit, that will be, because it's a brand new big federal program, that will be one of the ones selected for audit. And if incorrect expenditures are charged or it's not recorded correctly, then if it gets, it would get reported as such, called a finding. And how the state of Connecticut chooses to monitor it, forget anything with our town and our audit, they can always they have the right to come into any municipality and say, let's see how you're doing with this. And again, depending upon what they might find, that's what could happen.
Okay, and I only ask this because we've requested information in the past, which was monitored information, and we were told something that didn't happen. So I guess I'm playing devil's advocate, and I'm being as nice as I can in requesting this, that we can only take what we have been given. So I'm just leery of that and what kind of trouble it could cause later. So it's just me being devil's advocate for the town of Seymour, and monitoring is monitoring, but that's where I stand. That's all.
I have no problem with you playing the devil's advocate part, because once this money comes into the picture, to Anne Marie's point on her email, we will be talking to the Board of Ed chair and to their finance group chair. And what I've said here about asking Doug to stay in touch and watch the expenditures and all, I am going to be conveying to them. We cannot tell them how to spend the money, but that doesn't mean we can't, as the town of Seymour, whose grant is in the name of, that we abdicate our responsibility to making sure it's correctly recorded and handled.
Right, and are
So-
we included in that? So I guess as part of the
In-
correspondence aspect, are we included in all of that?
I'm not sure. That's up to the State Department of Education.
Okay.
And usually the State Department of Education will just deal through the local Board of Education. I mean, that's just their practice, how they've done stuff. But that's why I think having an open dialogue between us and them is an important thing. So that, yeah, they can, they can, send anything they want to the Board of Ed, as long as we're in the loop.
Right.
And I'd like to think that in the spirit of cooperation and asking politely and making our feelings known, that there won't be an issue.
Okay, and it was just a curiosity question. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No, that's okay. That's all right. Okay, what? Oh, I guess that wasn't for us. Anyway, one of the things that I want to go through tonight. Well, first of all, does anybody have, in going through all of the stuff that Doug mailed out to us, does anybody have any questions of numbers and lines and all that fun stuff that, makes finances worth living? Okay. I didn't hear anything. Anne Marie, are you on? Hello? Hello?
I'm sorry, I had to step away. What was the
Oh,
question?
no, not a problem. Now I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at the long-term capital plan,
Yep.
and I see the first line under Public Works is the dump truck for 100,000 for the budget we're talking about. It
Mhm.
says 100. And then if I go to page 17 of the department detail, where all the different line items are under capital and non, I see the F-550 truck for 90,000. Should that come out of there and be assumed to be the 100 that's in the capital plan, so we don't double count it?
Yes.
Okay.
Those
'Cause I
are,
remember we had chatted and I
Rory, go
thought
ahead.
that was,
sorry, those are two separate trucks. The dump truck are the big 3-axle dump trucks, and
Mhm.
550s are kind of the workhorse
yep,
dump trucks. So those are meant to be two.
okay, so are we? Okay. So then if that's the case, then the capital plan that has the $100,000 stays at 300,000. And the 550 stays as the 90. Is that,
Yeah,
Are we,
yes,
am I reading this correctly, just to make sure?
yes.
Okay, so if
I thought we went through
everyone
all
can
that
go to
already.
page 17. Yeah, I just, and remember what we talked about, and I just, when I noticed what I thought were the same numbers, I said, well, let me ask. So we have in, on page 17, town capital non-recurring, a budgeted figure of 643, 825, which is made up of the 300,000 from the one-page long-term capital plan, which you see is really the first line in page 17, and plus all of the other different items. So that's where we are with this then. Okay, then no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure on that. Because I don't have an issue with it either way of, taking the 90 out of here and making this 553 and essentially swapping it out. But then again, you short a half a dump truck if you take that 100 away. One of the things I want to call to everybody's attention, if you look under town contingency, the first line is project and professional fees. And I had suggested that line item be put in. And I'll tell you why. We have a couple of projects going on in the town that may or may not require some professional fees with architect studies, engineers, or whatever. The biggest one of which at this point is the senior center or community center, I guess. Senior center, community center. I sometimes mix the words up, but it's the same building. And there is a committee formed for it. Kurt Miller chairs it. I'm on it, as well as a bunch of other people that know much more about buildings than I do. But one of the things that I thought of was, should we put some money in that line item? Is because if the projects move forward and, we need to get some professionals in here for architects and engineers or design people or whatever. Anne Marie, you have your hand up, and I'm guessing it's to ask a question, and you're not
No,
just waving.
it's
to
more
me.
of a statement. We just sent a survey out, right? We just sent the surveys out, or the surveys are going out this week,
Okay,
later this week, maybe early next week, to the town residents to see what they want. We're not gonna budget, I'm not gonna budget for a consultant service fees for something I don't know what we're going to need yet, and we don't know how this is gonna be paid for yet, and it still has to go to referendum. And my guess, and I could be off on it, would not be this budget year. My guess, it would probably be next year's budget.
okay, that's a fair comment. Anybody else? I mean, I can't, being on as part of that committee myself, I can't disagree with that because it depends on the pace and the results of the survey. I mean, if everybody replied to the survey that we don't want it, then, nothing's going to happen,
Right.
obviously. And we don't want to budget for something and build it into the mill rate and tax people if we don't have to.
Correct.
Who got a survey? I didn't get
Anybody else?
one. I didn't get a survey.
Didn't go out yet.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's why.
Okay. The other item in that is the town has a building committee apart from the community center committee that was charged with the renovations to town hall, library, and the police station. And to my knowledge, the piece that is still left with this which I want to get some information on, and I haven't been able to yet, is that committee has always talked about an anticipated shortfall between what it would cost to really button the projects down with what the town had paid for it. In other words, they bonded, I don't think, back when this project got off the ground, I don't think enough money was set aside, the way everybody's talking about, this is still needed, that's still needed. One of the big things that are needed is operating and system manuals for all of the new boilers, heating systems, and whatever that have been installed in all three buildings. And my understanding is it's not cheap, but again, I throw that out there. And Anne Marie has her hand up again. So go ahead, Anne Marie.
Listen, I have answers for you. I'm sorry. So,
Ooh, I'm excited. I love answers.
right? I try to help. So the town building project, you know, we're still cleaning up messes from that. We had talked about.
Yep. Yes,
you know,
we
had
are.
talked about some overruns due to the project. We talked about an O&M commissioning manual. But the new improved system, the system is used throughout all the buildings, so we're still waiting for the O&M manual to come through. But the good thing is that since it's the same system throughout the schools or throughout the buildings, except for Chatfield La Presti, we only need one O&M manual to get through. So we're not looking,
Yay, it's a good thing.
right? So we're not looking as so much as we're gonna have
Okay.
different buildings, 4 different manuals, 4 different things, same service, same product, 1 manual. There is no litigation.
Okay.
That there were very little, and it's not worth, we pay more in attorney fees than we would get in for the litigation. So we're going to look to see, once we start coming to the bottom line, where we can go to start paying for that, and where actually how much of a shortfall there is. But it's basically maybe get the, send an email out to the building committee as to what they have, what they found, and have the building committee go from there. I spoke to Tony Caserta today, as well as Tim Connors, and with Rory, and we're just gonna see what the bottom line is, where we can pull from to pay off the bottom, what we owe. How's that for an answer for you?
Okay. Doug, do we have it? Pretty good. Doug, do we have any money sitting in any unexpended capital projects left?
No, we don't.
Well, that's not a great answer, but okay.
I can go back and recheck if you want.
Well, I think because the one thing that I want to be cautious on is, you know, and to Anne Marie's point, I don't think these final numbers are ready. You know, the litigation is not anything now, but I'd like to avoid, and I'd like to think that sometime in the 21-22 budget year, this is going to be cleaned up, fixed, finished, it's gone, everything's done. And in that regard, I'm thinking that probably a number somewhere around, and I'll lowball it, but I'm thinking somewhere between maybe 75 and 100 on that line item. Because I understand it's a year out, a year and a half almost out. And with all of the different niches and little glitches and stuff that we're talking about, some of it's going to come to pass. And I think the situation we want to avoid is, you know, let's say November of 21 or around Christmas time. Yep, here are the final numbers to finish this. And we get to a situation where, oh, gee, we don't have anything budgeted. Well, we'll have to push it to next year. And this town has too much of a history of, well, we'll push it to next year. If we can make some sort of dent in this thing now. It's not a big number, but I think it's something we want to think about. And, hopefully, between Tim and Tony and maybe Mike Marcinek, they can come back with some kind of idea. But I just don't want to see the town have get caught with their pants down. And we all of a sudden can't finish a project because we don't have the money to pay for whatever the last costs were. And again, my number's a guess. I don't have any advanced knowledge that it's a good number, it's a bad number. But I know in the meetings that I've attended last year and years before on this committee, this is the kind, this is, let's say, the low end of a number that we've all just, again, informally been kicking around because we all know that there's costs that have to be to finish it, but we don't know what's what. But now that we're getting closer to the deadline, litigation is no longer an issue. I'm just trying to err on the side of caution. Thoughts, actions? Anybody want to yell at me? Feel free.
Eddie Ann here, and I would never yell at
Go
you.
ahead. Yep. Oh,
Never,
okay.
Ever
Thanks.
yell. I see so many question marks at this stage in the game that I haven't experienced in the past. But I don't know. We'll check
Yep.
next week. We got to get this done. It falls on us. So, again, for the town of Seymour, playing devil's advocate, we're not in a position to guess on this stuff. We need to have some hard answers. So if we do not have some hard answers, how are we able to establish what's required by the time these public hearings come on and we propose a budget? Just dumb question. Something to think about.
And no, it's not a dumb question. I mean, in the perfect world, we'd have all the information in front of us. But by the same token, I think it's prudent on our part, if we know something is probably going to occur, and it's more probable than not, meaning the final windup of this building project. And I'll defer to Anne Marie if she doesn't think it's going to happen. But worst case scenario is, you're right, between the police department, these pieces of information we need, hopefully we can get it. But if we can't, as I said before, then I think it's incumbent upon our board. We're bound by charter and dates and timing and all that. It's incumbent upon us to make some decisions. And we may not change anything. We may leave everything alone. But it's incumbent upon us to make some decisions, if we have to, that we think are in the best interests of the town. Again, budgeting is, the best guess, and that's all it can be. And as I said, with this building project, it's got to come to an end. We know there's going to be money that's going to have to, eventually the town's going to have to pay out. We don't have any, what Doug just confirmed, we don't have any place within the town funds of unspent money that we could take that money, and if the building project closes out and they need X dollars, we can take it off of the old projects that have been done, because they're not around anymore. The cash has been spent. Anne Marie, hand up again.
Of course it is. And I know we're probably trying to get out of here on an early night, and I'm sorry, guys. Has the building committee had their final meeting yet to disband yet, or no?
No, there have been no meetings. I think there was one, I want to say towards the summer, we might have had one, maybe, I can't honestly remember, but there's been nothing in terms that I'm aware of having a final meeting to disband. And I would think that the projects themselves, like in any town project, the town would, the committee in charge of the project would have to accept the project, then recommend that to the Board of Selectmen. And then once the Board of Selectmen would say, okay, we accept the recommendation of the building committee, these projects are all accepted, then yeah, the building committee is run out of stuff to do, they close up shop.
So
But
with all,
that, none of that, to my knowledge,
go ahead.
no, I'm sorry, go, I saw you were gonna say something.
So with all the work that was done and completed,
Yeah,
the building
Yep.
committee, I know we're getting off of Board of Finance, and I'm so sorry, guys. The building committee has not accepted the report.
that's all right. To my knowledge, it hasn't happened. I mean, the
right.
person that would know absolute would be Mike Marcinek. But to my knowledge, there have been no votes to accept buildings or anything like that. Because the last we had an inkling, there was possible litigation going on. We know they had the, let's call it the asbestos incident in town hall when everything was blowing around and they had to clean everything up. So there were a
What
lot of
asbestos
holes.
incident?
I understood, one of the things I understood was that council was going to go out and hire an independent firm to check the systems. A lot of different pieces, I think, are still in play. I could be wrong, because I don't, I'm not into the privy to a lot of the specific details, but that was the last that I understood. And, hopefully I've missed something and things have moved along quicker.
Okay.
But I think one of the things, as I said, I'm looking at this in terms of, well, from all of the numbers and different things that have been talked about, 100 grand is a number. Anne Marie, if you talk to Mike, if you get a chance to talk to him, see what his thoughts are. He may disagree totally and say, oh, no, don't put anything in. Or he may say, yeah, the 100's good, or, maybe it should be 150, who knows? But I just think that if there's no litigation any longer and this thing's moving towards completion, probably in the 21-22 budget at some point, these buildings are going to have to be accepted and everything in them blessed, and the town's going to be writing some checks to finish everything up the way it should be.
I agree with putting
That's,
putting
it's the
money
best.
aside for that. I agree with putting money aside for that. Maybe 100,000. I would agree with that for the building committee. I don't agree with doing anything for the community center yet, because we don't know what's going on with that, and I don't want to tax people on something that may or may not happen. That is not the right thing to do.
No, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. I mean, because again, with the surveys and stuff, you're right. It may be premature on that end. So that's okay. I mean, for now, this project and professional fees can focus on town buildings, let's call it, the three of them. And not do anything with community center and not do anything with moving the Board of Ed, as you had explained last time, which is fine.
Oh, no, I think that we should take 300,000 from the Board of Ed, but that's just my opinion after the whole bulldongle that we got done. But that's just my opinion, in my opinion only. And I know you guys have the final say on the budget, and that's fine. My only thing is I can't see, I feel I made cuts where I could make cuts and bring in the mill rate down as low as we possibly could. I just don't want to see it go any higher. People have had it tough this year. I mean, the town's having it tough, but so are the residents. And I just can't see, even keeping the mill rate at 36. If we can give people a break, let's give them a break.
I agree 100%.
Well,
That's just my thoughts. I know it's your budget. I know you guys have the final say. I just want to get that out there. I would like to keep the mill rate at
no, I
low,
don't.
but I do not want to leave it at 36 or even drop it to 35, because that's not even going to help people.
No, I have no problem with seeing a drop in this thing. I mean, and you know, as it sits right now, I think we're at what about a one and, hey Doug,
1 3/4, 1.75.
Doug,
Yes,
okay. Well, I think Anne Marie just answered the question, but if we go with a budget of the 59,143, the total under Anne Marie's column,
yes.
what does that do to our mill rate? Because right now, under property tax revenue, you've got it pinned as if the mill rate doesn't change. It's 36. So what does that do for the mill rate? Where does the mill rate end up if we did nothing to Anne Marie's budget and just went with that number?
Just a second, let me pull her budget up.
Okay. And again, for everybody, a mill is roughly $1 million. So 100,000 is roughly a tenth of a mil, 0.1.
Yeah, with the first select woman's budget, it's 34.74 mils.
Okay, so this, and I'm just scribbling some notes. 34.74.
Mhm.
So that's a difference of 1.26 mils. If I did if I did my math right, 1.25 mils roughly.
Yep, 1.25.
Okay. Just, let's see. Doug?
Yes,
Yeah. So if we added on the contingency line under the professional fees, the first line, project and professional fees. If we added to it 100,000,
okay.
would that make the difference in the mill rate 1.16?
Just a second.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, it moves it 0.09 mils. So it increases it up to 34.83 mils.
So that becomes 1.17. mill reduction,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yep.
All right, well. All right, let's do this for our festival Wednesday night. Doug, if you can rerun the printouts and put 100,000 in that line,
Okay,
and also at this point, run the revenues so that the revenue comes out to equal the expenditures. So we can get redo the property tax sheet
okay,
at 3483.
okay,
And let's see what these look like. And also, if you could please see what you can do as far as talking to the chief
okay,
about those 3 items we talked about earlier. Because that's another case where if he's got some ideas, and again, this board will have to make the call. If it's a 30, and you can tell the chief that we have a tentative $90,000 item in for the body cameras.
okay,
And ask him, to get his 2 cents on that. Because, and whatever he may have for reimbursement information, because quite honestly, if we have 90 in for the cameras and the body cams and the dash cams, if that's eligible for 30%, well, then the town picks up revenue of $27,000. That may be something we put in the revenue line of the town. So that, again, that cuts the mill rate more. But we need to know as best we can on any new mandates that he thinks are coming down, because we don't want to get surprised. And if this 30% is going to come to fruition, because again, to Anne Marie's point, if we've got to have the cameras and the dash stuff bought by July 1 in order to qualify, then we're going to spend 50 out of the budget we're in right now. And the other 40, if we have to write a check, Doug,
uh-huh,
you can write the check and hang it up on the balance sheet as a prepaid expense. You can hang it up on your balance sheet as prepaid expense.
okay,
So this way, and then, July 1st, reverse it, then July 1st, reverse it into the budget as that year's expense. But I don't want to lose almost $30,000 if we don't have to. Because that's a pretty good reimbursement. Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts before we let Rich go to the favorite part of any of these sessions?
I got a couple thoughts here. Because looking
Go
through
ahead.
this budget, I still think that our expenditures are still a little high for what I think we really should be doing this year. Being in the middle of a pandemic. I think that we really need to take a look at some of these things that we usually do every year. Say, hey, maybe this year we can kind of forego that. bring these numbers a little bit more. And I'll give an example. So for every year we get a Ford F-550 truck. Okay. Do we really think this is the year to do that again? Maybe we could skip a year. Is it really going to make that much of a difference if they don't get another truck this year? Same thing with like a vehicle, the police department. There's all these little things that I think that we could still be cutting out of this budget to bring even more meaningful relief to the people. I'm not trying to get rid of it forever.
But they don't have, they don't, they don't have the police cars in their budget because we took them out.
Okay, so
Yep.
even though they might not have those in the budget. I mean, we have this additional truck here for the F-550. There's a few other little things that I'm sure that if we look through really detail, we find some things that we probably forego this year. To down even further. And then of course, my thoughts with the Board of Ed budget again. We have in here, $189,160 decrease in what Anne Marie came up with versus what the Board of Ed asked for. I mean, I still think because they're getting a substantial amount of money from the state of Connecticut, we really have to take that into consideration, even though it's up to them to spend whatever way they want. I still think that definitely account for some of that in their budget and decrease it another 200. That's my thought, because like I said, we're kind of in tough here with everybody, and after the year that we've had, I really think that we've got to take a really good look at what these expenditures are and to see, could we really do without this year? That's my thought process. I think we could do a lot better. And then of course on the revenues, I mean, there's a few things that I think look strange, but I mean, we'll deal with that when we get to the revenue side of the budget, when we go through the process like we normally do. But I mean, one thing off the top of my head that I could think of as an increase in revenue would be pistol permit. I mean, we're at $17,000 this year, which is way over the actual projected in our budget last year. Bump that up another $5,000 and make it $10,000. I mean, because they're obviously on a roll and they're doing pretty good, and we've exceeded that number every single year. So I mean, there's just some of these little things that I think we really need to take a look at, and one of the big things for me being to really take a look through this budget and see what we can remove that. I know I'm not trying to be the bad guy.
Anne Marie?
Yeah, hi. So, Rich, as a member of the Public Works Committee member, you should understand that those trucks is because of a 5-year plan. So we don't have the whole incident where that one selectman bought all those trucks in 1 year and they all went crap the bed at one time. So the money that's in the budget is so that every 5 years we can buy a vehicle to replace another vehicle. Tony already saved money this year by taking the body off of one and fixing it and putting it on the same frame. So I understand where you're saying where we can not have to spend the money here, not spend the money there. But what you're going to do is kick the can down the line, because when you take it out of the budget now, it's not going to come back into the budget. So those trucks are part of the 5-year plan, which is part of the strategic planning committee, which is part of moving this town forward. And I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying about that. We shouldn't be spending, but we can't sit there and say, oh, well, we got 10,000 in revenue from guns. Well, let's just say we're going to get more from the guns. We don't know what we're going to get from revenue from year to year. We're just guessing it upon last year. And because of the new laws that are put into place, we're just guessing that this is the money that we're going to get in for the revenues. The community center got ugats for coming in from monies because the community center was down. So now we're starting the programs back up. We're going to get more and more money into the revenue. So yeah, next year will look better. I agree with trying to cut where we can cut, but I feel that I've cut the most we can cut while still continuing to move this town forward. I don't want to cut trucks, but if that's what you guys want to do on cutting trucks, it's not what we should do. We did that with fire trucks. One year we bought all brand new fire trucks, and I'm sure, Mr. Sawicki can attest to this one. And now we're looking at having to buy all brand new fire trucks because we bought all the trucks in 1 year. The whole purpose of budgeting it is so that we're not buying all new trucks, 5 trucks, 10 trucks in 1 year. It's part of the strategic planning committee.
I agree, but there also becomes a point where you say that in a year where we've had kind of circumstances beyond our control, to maybe say, well, let's take a look at this, maybe put some of that on the back burner for another year. I mean, that's just my opinion. And that's also the opinions of a lot of people that I've been talking to already. Because with you got, the reeval coming through, everybody's freaking out about that. And they're like, well, look, where's this money coming from? I don't have it. I've been laid off for a year, or, I've had a decrease, or I've had more expense here or there. So, I'm just looking at this as a whole picture, saying, okay, things didn't really go as planned this year, and I really need to compensate accordingly. And I'm not saying let's get rid of the truck. I'm just using that as an example of some of the things that kind of go on this budget. We put it on hold. That's just my opinion.
By the way, I did not have.
You and I both know, Rich, that once you take something out of the budget, it's never going back in a budget. That's
Well,
just the way it is.
That's not necessarily true, because here we all are going to be sitting here again at the same plateau next year for the next budget. We can say, all right, you know what? Because we took this out last year due to the pandemic, we got to put this back. I'm not saying remove the line item completely. It'll still be, as a placeholder.
Just because it has a line item doesn't mean it's a placeholder. It just means there's a line item. There's still line items in there from 10 years ago, and there's no money in there.
Okay, so we dump $1 into it then to keep it active.
And as far as the assessment goes, I understand some people's taxes are going up, some people's taxes are going down, some people's are staying the same. My assessment went up $65,000 and I did absolutely nothing to my house. Okay, I get that. I understand that. But the revals happen every 5 years. It's the way the market is. We asked to stop it and we couldn't, and I get it. And I don't want to push any more taxes onto the taxpayers, but I also, by lowering the mill rate, we're doing that, but we also have to be able to move the town forward, or else we're going to go send ourselves back 10 years. And we don't want to do that either. Again, this is just my opinions and my thoughts. What you guys do is what you guys do. It's just my opinions and my thoughts. That's all. And I'm just I see it both ways. I do. But I think if we start cutting trucks out because this is not the year to buy it, I agree. That 90,000 that Chief Sikowski gave us is not a solid 90,000. I've asked him several times for quotes, and I'm going to call him at his office tomorrow and say, give me the quote you have so I can give it to the Board of Finance. I don't need the Cadillac. Give me the Escalade. Don't give me the Escalade. Give me an Equinox. Give me something where I'm not paying something 5 years down the road. I know an Escalade is a Cadillac. I know.
Well, I think both of you have excellent points, and for the reasons both of you mentioned. From my perspective, and I lean towards the side of this town has been notorious for kicking the can down the road. And there's always been a reason why. We've thankfully never had a pandemic before, but there's always been some reason. There's always been a reason why. Well, let's take 700,000 out of our surplus to keep the mill rate low. And for those of you that have been on this board a while, the problems we've had trying to build this thing up to where we have it now at a decent point with a tremendous bond rating, so that Wall Street looks at us and says, hey, that's a good little town, that type of thing. And my biggest fear is that if we kick stuff down the road for improvements and things like that, it's going to come come back to bite us. And I know, yeah, it's one truck, but I know we cut out 3 police cars. And I know that, you know, and hopefully things will be such that they can be bought again without hitting any extra money that it can come out of unspent funds in the PD like it has been for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I guess. But that's my biggest fear. And I think, you know, to raise up pistol permit revenue, okay, you know, you want to tack $5,000 onto it, fine by me. I mean, I don't, you know, is it a difference maker? Well, don't know if it is or it isn't, but if it goes from 5 to 10, okay. You know, that's not a horror show. I do think, hey, Doug,
Yeah, yes,
you know, just for argument's sake, please make pistol permits 10 instead of 5.
okay,
Yeah, that's not
Okay.
really gonna do it. But I mean,
Um,
these are little things. that I'm
no,
talking
and I get it. And one other thing, Doug, is under state government shared revenues. Can you please put in a line for Accountability Act reimbursement?
okay,
You know, 335, I don't care, 0005 or something, whatever number fits in best. And again, for the sake of argument, so we have something to discuss, put a figure in of $27,000, which is 30% of the 90. Hopefully we will have some more solid information. That number may change. That number may go away, but at least to give us an idea of something to talk about.
okay,
And I think at the moment, and again, you know, in terms of the Board of Ed, yeah, they're getting the ESSR money, which is earmarked for absolute things, educational issues, low income students, Title I, all of that. So can some of it be built into their budget to pick up the slack? As in most grants, we can't take town money away and substitute grant money. There is a factor in grants that say you can use it to supplement but not supplant, meaning that if they're getting a grant for X dollars, you can't take the same amount of money out of their budget and use the grant money for it, because that would be in violation of the award. And sometimes there are penalties and things like that that go along with it. Let's see.
Yeah, so
Let's see. I'm looking real
reduced it by a
quick.
third. I mean,
Rich, you're broken up.
even if we just reduced it by a third, because I'm sure that
Reduce what by a third, Rich?
like, so for example, if they're anticipating a $500,000 grant, why
Yep.
don't we, figure that 100 and just out of the blue, I don't know, $150,000. I'm sure they could find some way, to find $150,000 worth of budgeted items that they could use with that grant for. So I would suggest reducing their budget again by about another 150,000.
The grant, I believe, is for COVID.
It is.
Which
It
doesn't
is.
mix, which does not mix in this scenario.
They can't use it for anything else but COVID, and they have to show POs and they have to show the paperwork that where that money is spent. They cannot use that money to replace any other monies in their budget.
I'm aware of that.
I know
Um,
you are. I'm just repeating it.
I mean, it's just one of the where there's gotta be at least $150,000 COVID-related expenditures in their current budget.
Would this be something that we would discuss separately from this meeting tonight?
Yeah, I think this is something you should have a discussion with the Board of Ed on.
Thank you.
Just saying.
I make a motion, we discuss it later on in a meeting between the Board of Finance.
What I'm gonna do is we are in this nice little budget process of ours. I am gonna send an email out to Chris Harmeling, who's their chair of their finance committee, as well as Ed Stramello, who's the chair of the Board of Ed, and ask for the budgeted COVID dollars in their 21-22 budget. And the ESSR grant effect. Just maybe we can get some idea. My sense is, I don't know what the reply is going to be. But I think that's the board has, our board having the questions. I have no problem sending an email. I will copy Anne Marie on it, obviously. And I will send it out to them and see what they tell us. You're getting $500,000 for ESSR, which is COVID related. How does that relate to COVID dollars in your 21-22 budget request? And see what they tell us.
I wouldn't even ask them about the ESR. I would just ask them what their COVID related expenses, because obviously when you send that out with that in the same line, they're going to say, well, they're looking to take money away from us in our budget. So, I mean,
well, let's not be naive about this. If that question gets posed, they're going to know why. And I think, we're not dealing with a group of people that, gee, why'd they ask that? They know, and these kind of discussions go on.
Right, and my thought is.
And go ahead, Betty Ann. Sorry.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt, Bill. I apologize.
No,
Bottom
go
line
ahead.
is,
No, go
This is
ahead.
something that we have to handle amongst ourselves.
Yep.
And take care of it. Ask everybody that's party to the situation, all the people that are involved, and just simply request another meeting. That's all. Get it in, get it done, get it handled. But
Well,
not
one of
tonight.
the things that I can do is ask them if they would like to come to Wednesday's meeting.
Absolutely.
I mean, today's only Monday.
Yep.
And I think, but one of the things I would ask if everybody on this board, and I don't think I have to ask it, but I would request that, any interactions be civil and professional. And, we present ourselves as just, we're looking for information. And, I wouldn't expect anything. I wouldn't.
And I'm all for posing
What?
any questions we have through you, Bill. Put it in the chat
And
window.
that's
pay
fine.
attention
As I
to it.
said,
Yep.
well, yeah, I mean, that's fine. And as I said, no one will be cut off from debate, but as long as it's done respectfully, that's not a problem. So I think, I'll shoot that email out, see what kind of response I get, and we'll go from there. Rich, any other questions? That can be a lead-off question. What kind of COVID stuff? What kind of COVID expenses are you looking at in your budget you sent us?
Yeah.
And then how does the ESSR money relate to it? based on, track records, I'm guessing there's not going to be a whole lot of, well, yeah, we could cut this or move that or whatever, but I'm not going to speak for anybody. Let them tell us.
Am I out of line, Bill, asking if Anne Marie can be on as an observer? This meeting?
Well, no, I would expect Anne Marie would be here. I would expect Anne Marie would be here as the first select woman. I mean, she needs to know this stuff too. I mean,
Right.
unless she got vacation plans or something.
She's gone to South Beach.
The South Beach diet.
Yeah. I got that on my
Oh.
plan, but yeah, that was my only question. Thank you, Bill, very much.
No, I got no question at all. If we're all on the same page and we're all hearing the same words, then, nobody has to interpret anything. Let's put it that way.
Who said
All right.
South?
I will get the email out. Zanny.
Yeah, I had one thing.
I thought-
While you're sending that email, I do not know if they have this. I think I read it somewhere. Other statistics. Do they have like a cost per pupil or something, a statistic like that? And I don't know if it was in the budget book or anything, but that would be helpful. And if it's comparable,
I believe
to other
that's in the budget book.
I honestly did not get a chance still to pick up the budget book, so maybe I can't go Tuesday. I might go actually Wednesday to pick up the budget book. So good that I know.
Well,
it's in the
that's
budget book,
fine.
so.
I believe those stats are in there because
Okay.
I also know they have supplied us in the past with where Seymour ranks in terms of per pupil spending. How, I don't know how high up or how low we are, but that kind of information I believe they do have.
All right, perfect. And that's
Anybody
what I'm
else
looking
with
for, so.
questions?
Bill, this is Jim. I have a
Questions,
question.
comments? Hey, Jim, go ahead.
Just curious on street lighting, account number 580. It was
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, is that going to kind of like be a last phase, maybe Emery can answer, for the upgrading of the street lights after this 22 budget? Will probably be a lot lower. Right?
Yes. Yeah, it would be a lot lower, Jim.
Okay. So I'll pretty much take care of the town for the upgrade then, for the lighting.
There'll still be money in
Jim.
there, but it will, actually, Rory can speak.
Yeah, if I may, I'm sorry to interrupt again. The street lighting, what happened there, the project took about a year for the actual construction, and this is only the first full budget year, in which we've had the.
There's a lot of background noise.
Somebody has to, yeah.
Yeah, they're getting better at going outside.
This should be the year where we get a handle on where it's going to end up. So the budget we believe should be a good representation of what an average year looks like.
So after the 22 budget year, it'll be about lower, I would imagine.
No, that should be about what it should be going forward.
So budget will be 100,000.
Correct.
Okay.
It's down, and I would have to go back and look, but it was closer to 200,000 prior to the project.
Oh, was it that high? Okay. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Rory, can I ask a favor of you?
Absolutely.
Can you please send the Zoom invite for Wednesday's meeting to Kristen Harmeling and Ed Stramello? because
I'll do
I
it right
will
now.
also send them my email. I will also send them my email saying that you're gonna get an invite to our meeting on Wednesday night. The board has some questions regarding your 21-22 budget and COVID expenses. And you're a whole lot more tech savvy than I am to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send it right over to him.
Thank you. Any other questions, things to go over? Jeez, I don't hear anything. So,
Motion to
Rich, you're
adjourn.
on.
I beat you, Rich.
Ooh,
All right. Right. Seconded.
There you go.
see everybody on Wednesday. Stay safe, everybody.
Thanks,
All right.
Anne Marie.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Well.